Well, hello! I'm back, baby. I'm back. I can't apologize enough for my unintentional extended absence. It really is inexcusable, though, ironically, I actually do have a very, very good excuse.
Aliens stole my kidneys and sold them to the government. It's happening, man. I'm telling you, it's happening.
You see, a very, very good excuse. You know, you really do feel safer wearing one of these. Yeah, maybe not. Anyway, way back in video number one, I think that was in October of last year, somewhere in there. I briefly showed you the disaster that is my workbench. So I thought, what the hell? For this triumphant return, or tragic return of mine, maybe we should revisit that and I'll show you what I've got going on because there's a lot going on there. Maybe too much. Maybe far too much. Well, let's have a look anyway, shall we? Alrighty then. For those of you that missed it the first time, here's a little bit of a recap on what the disaster looks like. And if you did miss it the first time, good heavens, why? Get on it. Have a look at that. Anyway, yeah, so as you can see, there are a few projects on the go here, and some of them have been sitting around for a very long time, and I really need to get my butt in gear and get them finished off. But that's what the mess looks like. Yes, believe it or not, folks, I can actually work like this. Don't ask me how, but it works for me. So let's have a look at some of the projects I've got going on in a little more depth. So this one is Anson Johnson's highly modified Mustang Racer. Now, I am a big fan of racing aircraft, and I really want to add this aircraft to my collection because it's quite unique. And it is admittedly a bit of a Frankenstein's monster. The reason being is that over the years I've had various Mustang projects that I've either ripped parts off of or just not completed and they got broken or whatever. And so I've had a lot of Mustang parts sitting around. So I thought, I can kill two birds with one stone here. I can add this aircraft to my collection, and I can also use up some of these leftover parts. So we've got the Academy Mustang fuselage and upper wing surfaces with the Hasegawa lower wing surfaces on here. And I'm also going to be using the Hasegawa horizontal stabs and various other pieces from those kits. So yeah, this aircraft was purchased by airline pilot Anson Johnson in 1947, and it was slightly modified. He chopped the wingtips off, I think, like 6 feet in total. He chopped them off, and he raced it in the 1947 Kendall race, Kendall Trophy race. Didn't do so well, but he wasn't discouraged. He kept going. He managed to secure a later win in a different race. And with a bit of prize money, he then highly modified this aircraft. He cut off the big belly scoop. He added P-39 radiators in the wings with these inlets in the front, exiting through inlets or outlets on the top. And there's little flaps that'll go in there that I have to add yet. He also put in a 225 Merlin, which is adapted from Canadian-built Mosquitoes, and that was actually more efficient at lower altitude, which he thought would be better for racing. It was lighter and gave more power at lower altitude. And various other things. He had water injection tanks in the wings and a different propeller and blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, in the 1949 Thompson race, his exhaust stacks started burning off and he had to drop out of the race, so he did not finish that one. However, in 1952, he made an attempt at the world speed record. Sadly, there was a lot of equipment problems and it wasn't really certified by the National Aeronautic Society or whatever the hell they are. However, on one run, he did reach a speed of 510 miles an hour, which is pretty darn good for 1952. And this aircraft actually still exists. It was restored to static display condition by, I think it's the New England Air Museum. It's on display there, and they have restored it as Anson Johnson's modified Mustang. So that's that. And if you're wondering why I've cut the nose off, it's because I discovered, after I got to this stage, that there was something seriously wrong with the Academy fuselage, and that is that the Mustang has quite a pronounced down thrust on it, which was not present on the Academy kit. So I've cut the nose off and added a little spacer so that it will have the correct down thrust. And that also solved another problem for me, and that is that underneath on the nose, there is an offset. I cannot speak today. What was I saying? Oh yeah, offset inlet ramp for the carburetor air intake underneath, and I was wondering how the hell I was going to do that, but by cutting the nose off, it made it much easier to make that little slot, and I can then blank that off from the inside. So that's that project. Yeah, that's been going for some time now. One day I hope to finish it. I'm also going to write an article on this for Random Thoughts, which is the IPMS Canada magazine. Now, I like to have Canadian connection when I do articles for RT. I have done them in the past. And believe it or not, this actually does have a very tenuous Canadian connection. And that is that this Mustang was a surplus from the RCAF in 1946. So there we go. That's that one. What else we got here? Way over here. Oh yeah. Ooh, dusty. That's been sitting here a while. This is the Revell Hawk. Now I have mixed feelings about this. It's not a bad kit. The fit isn't great, as you can tell by all the filler in the wing roots. The shape looks pretty good. It's got some nice detail, nice cockpit out of the box, pretty good wheel wells. But I don't know, some of the details a little bit soft. The panel lines are a little bit not very distinct. Yeah, I don't know. I still like the Fujimi ones. I think they are better, although the cockpit isn't nearly as nice as this one. But anyway, so it comes with red arrows markings, an aircraft, which I probably will do at some point, but not this one. This one is going to be the all black one with the big Welsh dragon down the side. Now, and I had a good hunt around. I was going to show you the sheet of decals that I have for that aircraft so you can see what it looks like. And I can't find them. I have no freaking idea where they've gone. So, yeah. Anyway, have a look online for the Black Hawk with a big red dragon down the side. It looks really cool. You'll like it. But, yeah, this one I got a bit frustrated with, so it sort of sat around for a while because of all the fit problems. But one day, perhaps. And that's that one. Okay, here, this was actually a completed aircraft. This is the Rodin SC5A. And sadly, it got rather destroyed on the trip over the pond when I moved back from the UK to Canada. And in fact, it actually got destroyed before it even got packed up because I knocked the top wing off. Oops. So, yeah, that needs a little bit of repairing. And one day I'll get around to doing that. Okay, where are we up to? Oh yeah, this little fella here. Now, I do occasionally build armor, and I must hold my hands up and say that I'm no expert on armor whatsoever. Don't really know what I'm doing with them, but I don't know, they're a fun diversion from aircraft. So this is an M3 Lee. This is the Mirage kit, which is very much better than the old Hasegawa one, which I built as a kid and really liked it. I've always liked this tank. I don't know why. It's just kind of, it's cool. I like it. It's got big guns and stuff, you know. It's neat. But I was hoping to do this one in Canadian markings. Really hard to find information on the net for Canadian Lees. They were mostly used for training in England, and it didn't look like they had a lot of markings. They had like little chalked letters on the turret sides, and that's about it, really. But yeah, this one I'm hoping to finish fairly soon. This is, by my standards, a fairly recent project. It's only been on the go for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Okay, now, previous video I did on painting and weathering, and I used as my unwilling victim the Eschi F-16, and that's where I'm up to with that. This is the orange jumper, the Royal Netherlands Air Force test aircraft, which differs from normal F-16s. It's got this big long instrumentation probe on the front and a little cute little kangaroo on the tail there. So that's where I'm up to with that one. And there is a video on the members only section discussing the Eschi F-16 and why I really like it. And there are other videos on there as well and other perks, so do consider becoming a member. Have a look at that. But yeah, kind of a different looking F-16. Quite like it. Some pretty cool markings on that one. And yeah, that's where we're up to. Oh, and I used res kit wheels, resin wheels, because they are far superior to the kit wheels. An Edward etch set, which is actually meant for the Italeri F16, but it works just fine in this one. So there we go. That's what we're up to with that. And oh yeah, and here is the orange instrumentation pod that goes under the centerline station, and then we've got two funky looking drop tanks with the photographic markings on them. That's all ready to go. Honestly, you know, some of these projects, they sit around and I have no idea why, because it wouldn't take very much to finish that off, and I should just do that, shouldn't I? I think so. Anyway, let's move on. Now, this one is kind of interesting because this is officially the oldest kit that I own, and that is, by oldest, I mean kit that I personally have had the longest. This one is the old Aurora, if I can just do it without destroying it. This is the Aurora Forgotten Prisoner. Remember this guy? Well, remember to forget this guy. I had this, I built this very one, when I was 10 years old. So this is pushing 50 years old, this model right here. And I've already rebuilt it once, and so this is the second rebuild, because when I originally built it as a child, I didn't paint it at all because it's got really cool glow-in-the-dark bits. You gotta like that. Now, the cool thing about the Aurora vision of the human skeleton is it's not really anatomically accurate, because, oh, here we go. If we look at his head, he kind of looks a bit primitive, bit of a Cro-Magnon thing going on there. I did consider replacing this with a more accurate 3D printed head, but in the end I thought, you know what, I'm going to remain true to Aurora's original vision, you know, like it or leave it. But yeah, so I'm open to, obviously I haven't done any weathering on this at all. This is just freshly painted. I'm going to make it, you know, look greebly like he's been forgotten for a long time. And when you think about it, this is pretty horrific, really, isn't it? Can you imagine being chained in a dungeon and then just sort of forgotten about, and you just starve to death and rot? Pretty awful. Yeah. Anyway, I always liked it. It's kind of cool. So we'll get on to that one fairly soon, I hope. What else have I got here? Oh, here, a quick one here. This is the Hasegawa egg plane. Dusty. Everything's dusty. And I'm going to do that as a CF18. You can tell because it's going to have a little searchlight right in there, which is the Canadian F18s have a searchlight. And so, yeah, there he is. Not really much more to say about that one. Okay, now, this was another one of my favorite kits when I was a kid. Not this particular one. This is a more recent acquisition. But I was a big fan of Tom Daniels' car kits when I was a kid. And one of my all-time favorites of his cars was the Pie Wagon. And there we go. There it is right there. The Pie Wagon. Always like this thing because, well, you open up the door in the back and it's got little pies in it. What's not to like? And there's a pie in the seat, too. Now, the decals that came with this kit, and this was the, I can't remember what release, 1997 Revell monogram, I think. The decals were absolutely horrendous. They were terrible. When I stuck them on, they turned a horrible milky white color, which didn't go away. They silvered, and they just looked terrible. So what I did was I made a set of masks to paint the Mother's Pie logo on the side. And these are available from Thunderbird Models, aka me. So have a look at that if you want to build one of these. They're a little tricky to use, but they look way, way better than the horrible decals that came with this. Now, this one, yeah, I'm hoping to get that done pretty quick. Got the wheels here, painted the lettering on the tires. And again, cars are sort of a secondary interest for me, but I do enjoy them, you know. And it does help to work on my painting skills. I find they're a little less forgiving than the military subjects. Now, one thing that is both interesting and highly annoying, and I just discovered this just before I started filming this video, is that I was working on the underside of this, and I had it sitting on this little piece of foam here to protect the paint. And ironically, something in this foam reacted with the Gunzy clear coat. And I don't know if you can see this, but up here, it now has a lovely mottled etched effect on it from this piece of foam. So thanks, way to go, stupid foam. So I'm going to have to repolish that out. Rather annoying. Because I worked pretty hard on that paint to get it nice and shiny, and then it got a little wrecked. I was not happy, not at all. But anyway, let's move on. So let that be a lesson to you. Don't use horrible pieces of foam to put your models on. Use something else. Where else? Oh yeah, another racing plane. Add to the collection. This is a High Plains kit, limited run kit from Australia. I don't think they're happening anymore. I don't think they're still in business. But I really like their kits. I built a couple of their other racers. They don't exactly fall together. They need a lot of work, but I really, really like them. They've got nice fine details. Yeah, and they've got some interesting subjects. This is actually an A36 Apache dive bomber, which was modified into a racer. And not a lot of modification. All they did was shorten the wings, as is often the case with racing aircraft. And this is called the City of Lynchburg. And it will look like this. Red stripe down the side and a black number. So yeah, a little bit different. Kind of cool. Like it. Now, P26, this is the AZ models kit. 72nd scale. I highly recommend if anyone's going to build a 72nd P26, stick to the old Revell kit, because, man, this was a lot of work. It didn't fit well. Panel lines, I think, are kind of overdone. Wings are a little bit too long. They needed reshaping and such and so forth, but it's getting there. Just need to mask and start spraying the olive drab on that. And I have some Starfighter decals for that, which will be happening. And I've also got a nice little resin engine from, how are they called now? Engines and Wheels, I think, something like that. But really, really nice. I don't know how they've cast this, because there's actually a space between the push rods and the cylinders. And the push rods are very, very fine, but it's all in one piece. Really nicely done, though. I got loads of these. What else? Oh, another F-16 over here. More dust. This is the Hasegawa prototype F-16. This is actually a really, really good kit. Hasegawa has captured all the changes in the prototype aircraft, and it's quite different from production F-16s. It's a little bit smaller. The panel lines are very, very different. A lot of it is a little more simple than your production F-16, but it's got that nice red, white, and blue paint job, and it looks quite spiffy. I like it. So there we are. And I actually started building this for an online contest. Was it online? I'm not sure. Anyway, Chilliwack Slot Car Palace was doing a little informal F-16 build-off, and I never ever heard any more about that. I don't know if that's still happening, but I started building that for that reason. Anyway, so there we are. And that is ready for paint, really. Just needs a bit of a cleanup and finish the nose probe off and get the canopy on, and then I can start painting it. There we go. Moving on. Where are we up to here? What's happening? I don't know. Oh, way over here. Oh, let me get that. Okay. Another car model. This is a 1958 Chevrolet AMT kit. Really, really nice kit. Very, very finely molded. Lots of good detail in the engine and underside and stuff like that. They kind of wimped out on the hood thing, because there was a big hole right here, and there was a metal clip that fit in there, like a spring that you just sort of snap the hood open on. And I couldn't quite figure that out, because the rest of the detail is just superb. They've even got the casting numbers on the engine block, and then they just wimped out on the hood opening mechanism. So I actually just filled that in, and I'll come up with something else that looks a little better. My dad actually found this many, many, many years ago at a secondhand store, and I think he paid $2 for it, $2 Canadian. Somebody had painted it fairly awfully in red, so I stripped all that off, and I've done it in Tamiya Coral Blue, and this is Halford's White, acrylic white, appliance white, actually. And so yeah, that's another one that's been going. for far too long, and I need to finish it off. Yes. Anyway, we'll put that back over there. Now, this probably doesn't need any introduction to anybody that's familiar with the aircraft. This is the Monogram Fluff. The Monogram Fluff. The Monogram 148 scale B58. And this will be, at some point, the subject of a future video on covering models with foil. That's how I plan to do that. What I have done on this is rescribe the whole darn thing. And if you remember back to, I think it was my first or second video on the Hasegawa P12E, you will know that I absolutely despise rescribing. It is the one thing that just flummoxes me to no end. I can't stand it because I'm terrible at it. But anyway, I persevered with this one, and I've pretty much got the whole thing rescribed. So I can start assembling it, and as I say, we'll foil it, and it will be the subject of a future video. So there we go. Doesn't look like much, but there's a lot of work gone into that just to rescribe it. And so there we are for that. Okay, bear with me. We're getting to the end here. Vindicator. This is a special hobby kit, and it's going to be another one of those pre-war markings with the yellow wings and the silver fuselage, which I really, really like. Again, not a lot to say about this. Pretty decent kit. It had far too much dihedral, so I have cut the bottom of the wings and filled it with milliput, which obviously I have not sanded yet, but I did reduce the dihedral quite a bit. If anybody's ever seen the movie Dive Bomber with Fred McMurray, awesome film, because there's color footage of these things in action, and it shows a lot of details that you will never see anywhere else. Pretty cool movie. Have a look. Check it out if you can find it. Fred McMurray, Dive Bomber. I think it was 1932 or something like that. But yeah, it's all in color. Pretty neat aerial scenes in that movie. So do check that out. I think that's more or less it. Right here, where we got. That was another one that didn't quite survive the trip over from the UK. This is a Revell D7. Put a lot of work into that many, many years ago. It's quite detailed in the cockpit. Did a little correcting to the shape. Now, this color scheme came from a profile, and I think it's been since rethought that this dark blue is actually red, which probably makes more sense, because when you look at pictures of this aircraft, this is very, very dark, which with the orthochromatic film they used in World War I would tend to agree with the premise of that it was red and not blue. So at some point I will probably repaint this. I may do it in completely different markings. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, again, it needs a bit of repairing. It's in the to-do list. I'll get to it one day, maybe. And finally, this is a squirrel. Poor Mr. Squirrel suffered a terrible accident and had horrific injuries during a tragic nut gathering incident. He had a big chunk out of him right here and some cracks around the base of the tail and chips and stuff, and I was asked to restore him for a friend who has a sentimental attachment to said squirrel. So there he is in all his glory. I fixed the big chunk and the cracks and refinished it, and he's a happy squirrel now. The Belfast in the back there, you saw that in a previous video for milliput, or you should have done. If you didn't check that out, do check that out. I'm working away on that. It's one of those things, whenever I use milliput for another project, I'll slap some of the leftovers on that, because there are a lot of gaps to fill on that. That's a big old heavy resin kit, and it needs quite a bit of milliput to fill the gaps. And so that's pretty much it, I think. The Hasegawa P12E is ongoing, and that will be in the next video. I'll do an update on that. I have done quite a bit more work on that since the last one, many, many moons ago. And so that will be the next video. So I think that's going to do it for today. Thanks for bearing with me. Thank you all so much for bearing with me also during my extended break. And again, I do apologize for that. It won't happen again, I do promise. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do consider becoming a member. Check out the merchandise, not merch. Merchandise. Say it properly. What else am I supposed to mention? Patreons, membership, like, subscribe, smile, pet a dog, eat some corned beef. There you go. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again very soon. I promise it won't be that long this time.